I found two reoccurring themes in all of Joe Burrow's losses dating back to the Super Bowl loss against the LA Rams during the 2021 season. In my previous video, I stated the Bills were without Von Miller. We were without Leonard Floyd. We were without Terrell Bernard, a new hybrid coverage linebacker for the Bills. And we were without Sean McDermott calling plays, but I left out we were without Micah Hyde, who is back for this season. And I'm going to prove to you exactly why Micah Hyde being in this game is ultra important. The first reoccurring theme that I noticed in all of Joe Burrow's and the Bengals' losses happened to come from their opposing team's defense. When you chalk up the amount of sacks on Joe Burrow, we could see here our guy Von Miller in that Super Bowl had 2 sacks on Joe Burrow. Aaron Donald had 2. We had Leonard Floyd, our guy here, had 1. A'Shawn Robinson had 1. And Ernest Jones had 1. That's a total of 7 sacks on Joe Burrow during that game. The following season, the Steelers beat Joe Burrow and the Bengals once again 7 sacks on Joe Burrow. The Bengals started 2022 0-2, and the next loss was against the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys had 6 sacks on Joe Burrow. In this nail-biting win with the Ravens, we can go down to their defense, and again, we see it. Only 3 sacks in this game, but when we go a little bit further, you're going to notice that 3 sacks was the lowest sack total of any of Joe Burrow's losses. Each time the Buffalo Bills have played the Bengals, we've only sacked him once. The Browns dominating the Bengals here, 32-13. The Browns had 5 total sacks on Joe Burrow during this game. 27-10 loss by the Bills. I already mentioned it. Bills only had 1 sack, and that was Matt Milano. Last year in that AFC Championship game, the Kansas City Chiefs pulled away 23-20. The Chiefs had 5 sacks on Joe Burrow. The fact that all of Joe Burrow's and the Bengals' losses happened when there's at least 3 sacks during that game, and knowing the Buffalo Bills only sacked Joe Burrow once, we have added Von Miller, who sacked Joe Burrow in the Super Bowl twice, Leonard Floyd, who sacked him once in that Super Bowl. I think the theme here is to get after Joe Burrow. And sure enough, in my previous video, you can clearly see that the Bills are the second best defensive line in total amount of sacks in 2023. We have Von Miller, who's trending up, Ed Oliver, who is in discussion right now of being Defensive Player of the Year, Leonard Floyd, who is on fire, AJ Epinesa, who is on fire. And to boot, this offensive line for the Bengals has been absolutely horrible, in the bottom of the NFL in pass blocking and literally the worst in run blocking. To me, this means the Buffalo Bills have a very good shot at exploiting the Bengals offensive line, and another reason why is because of injuries. Orlando Brown, 6'8", one of the best left tackles in the NFL, is questionable for this game, and who do they have in his place? Cody Ford. As Bills fans, we're all familiar with Cody Ford, and I really think Cody Ford going against Von Miller, Leonard Floyd, AJ Epinesa, whoever we put over there, is definitely a huge advantage for the Bills. Cody Ford actually was bumped from tackle to guard because of his deficiencies, and it's crazy to see him potentially starting at left tackle for the Bengals. Bills fans aren't expecting Linval Joseph to actually start this game, but I think he could actually make an appearance. I mean, he's been in the league an awfully long time, a very, very wise head on his shoulders, and we could see dating back all the way to 2020, he only played Joe Burrow once in his career, and this was actually Joe Burrow's very first game. And you could see he actually came away with a win, 16-13. He had 4 total tackles. Rasul Douglas could very well make an appearance during this game too. 6'2", 209 pounds. And why this would be extremely interesting is because Rasul Douglas has never played Joe Burrow in the Bengals. You could just see his game per game log in 2020. He never played him. This is the 2021 season for Rasul Douglas, and you can see he never played the Kansas City Bengals. In 2022, Rasul Douglas has not played the Cincinnati Bengals. In this season, in 2023, he had never played the Bengals or Joe Burrow. And I know the Bills were without Daquan Jones last year, but we now have Linval Joseph. We have Jordan Phillips, who's now healthy, who is dealing with that shoulder. We have Terrell Bernard, who's a much speedier linebacker and pass coverage. Cleveland, Tremaine Edmonds. We have Sean McDermott calling plays. Micah Hyde was out versus the Bengals in that 27-10 loss too. We have another added piece with Rasul Douglas, who has never played against Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow doesn't know what to expect from him. This Bengals offensive line is giving up a ton of quarterback hits, even with considering that Joe Burrow is getting the ball out the quickest of any quarterback in the NFL in 2023. He has the 9th most quarterback hits. The other recurring theme that I noticed with Joe Burrow is the fact that he struggles versus a too high safety shell. Similar to Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, similar to how the Cincinnati Bengals played Buffalo in that 27-10 loss, they force things underneath. They force you to have long, sustained drives, and that has really been the theme under Sean McDermott, and the rest of the NFL is starting to adopt it. And you can see here Joe Burrow's EPA per dropback versus single high safety. He rates at a 0.160 versus a too high. He actually has a negative rating at negative 0.184. Having Micah Hyde back and Jordan Poyer healthy and that too high safety shell, even that dime package with Jordan Poyer playing as a linebacker and Taylor Rapp, who also played against Joe Burrow in that Super Bowl, being in that high safety shell is definitely going to help out with the Buffalo Bills. This quote from Joe Burrow says it all. They were taking away all of our deep shots. Even when they were playing man, they were playing pretty soft, high hip, I thought for the most part, Burrow said. They did a good job of making us check it down and make us have these long 12 to 15 play drives. On offense, it really takes all 11 to commit themselves to really ball out on a play-to-play basis. All it takes is one person to screw up on the offensive side of the football for the play to foul, and not so much defensively. You know, a defensive player might not make a sound play, but they still make a stop because everyone's flying to the football. Fortunately for the Bills, we have really seen the writing on the wall as to how teams have been playing Josh Allen dating back to last year with those two high safety shells, playing cover 2, playing cover 4, and forcing the checkdowns. Josh Allen had an interview with Tom Brady, and Tom Brady even said, "You're like my oldest son. You know, no matter how many times you tell him something, you still don't learn." But Josh Allen has continued to learn this season, having the highest completion percentage of any quarterback in the NFL. Ken Dorsey having a very shallow route tree to start this season, even with Dalton Kincaid. Kincaid was 40th out of 45 tight ends in the NFL with the shallowest route tree at only 4.2 yards. So knowing that the Bills have really been working on that all season long, having these very shallow routes, knowing the Bengals are probably going to be playing us the same way as they did in the playoffs, the Bills are going to be well suited for this matchup. First reoccurring theme in all of the Bengals losses going against Joe Burrow is the sack fest. We need to have more than 3 sacks in this game. We have to make Joe Cool feel Joe hot and make him want to burrow in that foxhole. And when they say who dey, we dem. And in my next video, we're going to be talking more about the Buffalo Bills offense versus the Cincinnati Bengals defense. But one thing that we saw during that 27-10 loss by the Bills, Josh Allen was only sacked once. And you consider that the Bills have revamped this offensive line with Connor McGovern, with Osiris Torrance, and Spencer Brown, who has been balling out in 2023 compared to last year where he was just getting beat and smoked. I really think this offensive line is a lot better than last year, and we only gave up 1 sack against the Bengals. Here at BNC, I love diving into the analytics. I love diving into the stats. I try to put my personal biases to the side, but again, I am a diehard Buffalo Bills fan, and I see the light at the end of the tunnel here for the Bills. I try to let the stats dictate my thoughts. You know, obviously, analytics isn't the say-all, be-all. I think there's vibes during the game. There's player matchups that you have to consider too. So I do try to consolidate everything to propose to you guys a great deep diving insights. If you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you hit like. Every like really helps support this channel so much. So hit like if you can, subscribe if you enjoyed this. I am releasing videos daily, going live during the games. Appreciate you guys so much. I'm so ready for this freaking game. A redemption tour is starting here in Cincinnati. Buffalo Bills, strap up. Appreciate you guys, and go Bills.